Hi guys, welcome to the 2X E-commerce podcast. I'm your host, Kunle Campbell, and this is the show dedicated to rapid growth in online retail. On today's show, it's a first. So a lot of you have, I think about 4 people have reached out to me, and they were like, Kunle, I need to figure out SMS marketing. I need to figure out MMS marketing. WhatsApp is around the corner. And we're seeing like enterprise brands utilize, MMS and SMS, quite often, and it seems to be effective. And why is it not whole of market? Why is it not a whole of market solution? After all, email is democratized, social media marketing is democratized. What is going on with SMS marketing? And I was like, okay, I am going to, find an expert, a subject matter expert, who has vast experience and has not only runs an SMS marketing platform, but ideally has made money for a ton of brands, particularly in e-commerce. And it brought me to my guest today, Alex. He's from a company called Alex Bella. He's from a company called Postscript, and they want to be the in an article on TechCrunch I read, they said they want to be the MailChimp of SMS, which I found, very ambitious, which is where they're headed. Essentially, they have, supported, stores such as a shopping network, Piperloo, Gearbunch, to name a few in e-commerce. And I just want to bring him on the show today to ideally talk, really, really in depth about SMS in the e-commerce and online retail space, the legal pitfalls, I suppose, what potential ways you could explore to using SMS to get in your acquisition and retention for better ROI in general. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Alex to the show. Welcome, Alex.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's
Fantastic.
Great to be here. And before starting Postscript, I actually worked at a merchant. I worked on the brand side of e-commerce for a long time, for 6 years.
Okay.
So I definitely understand the feeling that comes from like looking at these enterprise merchants and seeing them utilize some sort of new marketing tool or new channel and like wanting access to that. So yeah, I can really empathize with that.
Brilliant. What merchant did you work for, out of curiosity?
Yeah, so it's a company in LA called Stack Commerce. They operate about 200 e-commerce stores for publishers. So they run things like the CNN store or the Mashable store.
Clever.
Yeah, and so I led partnerships there.
Amazing, clever, and they leverage, off the back of, the dominance of those brands, so conversion rates must have been off the roof.
Exactly.
Okay, so probably not done you sufficient justice with the introduction. Could you take a minute or less to introduce yourself and Postscript and your platform?
Sure. So I am one of 3 co-founders of Postscript, and like I said before this, we were working in e-commerce on the actual merchant side of things. And what we saw and what made us start this business was a few macro trends going on that everyone will be familiar with. Mobile traffic every year was just growing and growing and growing as a percentage of overall traffic. The email performance that we were seeing within the industry was just starting to decline. The channel and engagement on email was starting to age, and that channel had matured. And so at the same time, Facebook CPAs were increasing. So we were wondering a lot, like, what is the mobile first retention channel? What does email look? What does a modernized email look like that's not platform dependent like Facebook or Instagram? And we arrived at SMS, and we started Postscript. We've been around about a year, and it's been a really, really fast rise just within the e-com community because there's such a strong need. And so for us, it's been really interesting to operate, especially within the Shopify and the e-commerce ecosystem, because it's so interconnected and there's so many partnerships and interesting integrations that we can do. But it's been a really great year of working closely with merchants, helping them open up a new revenue channel, and just educating the market as to why SMS is so important and why it needs to be a part of the marketing strategy for any modern brand.
Brilliant. So does Postscript have a Shopify app?
It does. We're listed. We have a perfect 5-star review. I think we have 99 reviews last check, which is something we take a huge point of pride in. So yeah, we are a listed Shopify app.
I didn't realize that. Kudos to you, because that essentially means you've democratized this channel, of
Yes.
marketing. Where do we start from? Do we start from the opportunities or the pitfalls? From SMS, marketing. A lot of people want to, probably jump into SMS and they get their hands, burnt.
Yeah. So that's a good way to describe it. There's both upside and downsides of SMS. So the upsides are obvious. People open every single text message they get. Having any channel that you own with the customer that gets 98 or 100% open rates is incredibly potent. Like right away, it's like, oh, wow, I have a way to actually get my message to people. The downside is that, for good reason, nobody wants to be texted by a brand that they never heard of. Right? No one wants to be surprised when they get a text message because it's such a personal channel.
Yeah.
So because of this, it's very, very regulated. And there's a set of laws called the TCPA, specifically in the United States, but there are versions of this everywhere. And what the TCPA is, and its international versions too, it's the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. And what that does is it essentially says if you text someone or robocall them without them giving you explicit written consent, you're automatically liable not only for a class action lawsuit, but penalties of $500 to $1,500 per message that gets sent, which is pretty crazy, because if someone sends out a blast to 50,000 people and it was a non-compliant blast, they'll go out of business from that lawsuit.
Very much. Yeah.
So there's huge risk involved if you decide, hey, I want to do SMS, and you just go and you send a text to all your old customers. Right? Just everyone who maybe put in their phone during checkout, but like they never knew they were signing up for SMS. And that is the black hole. And that's where a lot of other SMS solutions don't follow the regulation on. And that's why like we're hearing and seeing brands get into trouble with this, because they don't know the risk, and they come in and they want to try SMS and they want to send out a message to all their old customers as if they were email addresses. And 2 weeks later, they have a demand letter.
Okay.
So
the key word there was written consent.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get written consent? Do you write it and then ask them to sign or check, the box?
Yeah. So it's a great question. So written consent can mean a few different things. It either means that they, during checkout or when on your site, they check what was previously an unchecked box. So if they're on checkout, this is your customer, and they click the box that says, I am signing up for news and offers via text message, right? And then there's some other legalese language around it. But the box cannot be pre-checked. It needs to be blank. And if they check that box during checkout and it is optional, it's not required for them to do that in order to buy, that is one form of written consent. The other form of written consent that we're really interested in and we're getting excited about is having a customer actually send the first text themselves. So if a user texts into your brand, and I'm sure we've all seen those like ads around, like text Kunle to 30321 in order to sign up for like e-commerce tips from you.
Yeah.
If users text in, that also constitutes written consent, them signing up. So the good news is that and there's a bunch of tactics we use to make it easy for people to build their list that we can talk about. But if you follow those rules and you get proper opt-ins, no customers are going to be surprised when they get a text. No one is going to be mad when they get a text because they've signed up. You're in no legal risk. And the best part is that you have a small group of opted-in people who've said, text me when you have stuff. And then you're going to get 100% open rates. You're going to get 10, maybe 40% click-through rates on those messages. So as long as you follow those rules, it can be incredibly profitable.
That's a perfect start, to kick off a potentially long-term, relationship. In the UK, where I've seen the power of SMS is a delivery company called DPD Delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Once you, I don't know how compliant they are, but once you order, say from Amazon, and they recognize your text message,
Mm-hmm.
they first of all brand their messages with their partners. So Amazon, your Amazon delivery is about to be delivered, and
Mm-hmm.
when the driver is within 30 minutes from your home, you get a text message from them. So it's very useful, you know.
Yeah. Do you like that as a consumer? Do you like getting those updates?
I do, because sometimes I'm not home,
Mm-hmm.
and they've got more positives from that, because you could also reschedule via SMS,
That's great.
and then you could give feedback off the back of it. It's super interesting, you know, in terms of like the use cases. Okay, so in the context of in your Shopify app, do you provide the opt-in checkbox? Does it sort of amends the checkout experience so people are able to that option to subscribe to SMS actually turns up in people's on stores checkouts?
Yep. So that's exactly how it works. We can't automatically edit their checkout because Shopify restricts access to that page. But when someone signs up for Postscript, the like second page before you can send a message or do anything, it's like, here's the instructions to update your checkout. And then here's all the other ways we recommend that you drive opt-ins in a compliant fashion.
Okay.
So that's right at the top. And that's been really good for us because we've taken the approach that, like, we used to work in e-commerce. We don't want to put any of our brands or merchants at risk, and they don't know what they're getting themselves into when they start SMS. So we've been really, really proactive and forceful with that. Like, we don't let any brands come in and upload a giant list of customers and send them a text. They have to actually speak to our team in order to do that. And so that's another way that we like try to prevent them from getting themselves into trouble.
Makes a ton of sense. Makes a ton of sense. Okay, let's talk about the other opt-in options. There are some podcasts I listen to that will have 50 email marketing tips, just hypothetically speaking. But in order to get them to send them over to you, you need to text the number blah 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 blah, and then they're opted in. I think you text your email or something.
Sure.
So in the context of e-commerce and online retail, how best can you start to build out your mobile phone list?
Yeah. Okay. There's a bunch of ways, and this is like my biggest passion. So I'm geeking out a little bit. So a checkout, like we discussed, but that's going to be small. It's going to be, in terms of site traffic, it's only a few % of site traffic actually makes it to the last page of checkout, and only a percentage of that are going to check an unchecked box. So there's a bunch of other better ways to drive opt-ins. The first is what you're describing, text to opt-in. Some of our merchant partners just put banners around their site, right? Text Alex to whatever number in order to get like first look at new products, or in order to join our VIP list, or in order to get first access when our holiday sale launches, right? Using incentives like that, as opposed to just saying opt into text from us, using a specific incentive, we've seen be the best way to drive a higher opt-in rate, like an offer of VIP access or a discount, something like that, maybe free shipping. So it can be banners. There's also this really, really cool technology that Postscript built out where, and everyone will have to use their imagination for this, but how it works is using Postscript, you can generate short links. And when these links are clicked on, and the person is on their phone, it will open up their text message app, and a pre-filled opt-in message is sitting there that they just have to hit send on. It's pre-populated. So these short links, so we've seen people drop them into their email campaigns. We've seen people plaster them around their site, share them on social media. And whenever a user clicks, if they're on their phone, boom, they're like, the opt-in message is sitting there waiting for them. They just hit send and they're opted in. And if they're on a desktop computer, when they click those links, they're taken to a landing page on site to type their phone number in to enter. And
Okay,
so
so
that, yeah, go ahead.
essentially, it's a short link that triggers whatever messaging app is on their phone. If they
Correct.
click on a phone. So we're saying like if you're like on an iPhone, it's like an iMessenger short link.
Exactly.
Okay, that's clever.
Yeah, and it pre-fills the message, so they never have to type anything. They
Okay.
just hit send. And so using those through really like whatever channel someone gets a lot of traffic, that is a great way to drive opt-ins.
Okay, so would it switch the application in focus from my web browser, where most of
Yes,
it would have been, or my email, to my messenger? So I don't see my email again. My iMessenger just comes up.
it comes up, you hit send, you get a confirmation back from us, and then the user is subscribed to that merchant's Postscript account.
So that's pretty fluid. So what kind of conversions are you seeing from click to opt-in rate with that option?
Yeah, it varies so much by brand. Um, it's been interesting. I get asked that question a lot, and sometimes on click to conversion, because there's no typing, because it's there. We'll see like 70 or 80% conversion on that second step, but with some brands it's more like 30. If really that whole window exists just based on like how engaged of an audience we see with that particular brand and how much of a cult following they have,
Exactly.
because for engagement, like that'll really dictate, because SMS is such a personal channel. Brands that like have the owner's voice or a specific voice and really speak to the user base and connect with them, those are the ones that the audience wants SMS updates from, because people at most are going to sign up for text updates from like maybe 3 to 5 brands. Whereas I don't know about you, but with email, I'm probably on 200 different email lists.
Yeah.
So it is going to be a smaller, more personal group.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually opted out of Domino's. So we have
Mm,
Domino's Pizza here, and
sure.
I think every 3 days they were messaging me about offers, and I responded to their message with a stop
Yeah.
just like 2 weeks ago, and then I kept on getting the messages again, and I realized I had to actually text the number. So they said to stop, so it was not to respond stop as it will be with Facebook Messenger. It was like
Mm-hmm.
text this other number, not
Wow.
stop. So
That's
I finally figured that out. And
That is so not user friendly. That's
yeah,
awful. They're just trying to keep you
yeah.
as if you'll buy a pizza after they've already made you mad from spamming your phone.
I think frequency is an important, because is very, very important with these things. And which brings me to my next question. I actually have two, but which is where in the funnel is
Hmm.
SMS marketing best suited for? Would you say to acquire new customers or to get existing customers for retention, essentially to purchase again?
Sure. Uh, it's effective in both. It's effective in converting people from like mid funnel down through conversion to onward to retention. So on the conversion side of things, people who collect phone numbers via pop-ups, they will, just like with email, they tend to focus on pushing mobile traffic to SMS pop-ups, and desktop traffic they'll stick with email. And if that person isn't a customer yet, they'll drop them into a specific welcome series aimed at converting them. And that is pretty effective. And then post-purchase, SMS can be very effective because you can utilize all of that purchase data to send all the customers' purchase data to send a very targeted message. So let's say that I, as a customer, have bought 3 of these shirts. Like I would be dropped into a specific SMS flow to like update update me when like the new version of these launch. And like for a customer, that's an incredibly relevant piece of messaging to get. So driving retention and repeat purchases, but also the like mid funnel conversion. Once someone is on your site, it's a good channel.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Then within the the messages, how often and how many words are optimal? It's text only,
Yeah.
I suppose. those, or would you go multimedia with MMS?
Yeah. So we were actually just doing some data on some data analysis on this this week. So different brands see different performance with their creative. Some brands see no difference between sending an SMS and an MMS in terms of ROI, or in terms of like actual like revenue per message sent. And MMS messages tend to be much more expensive. So if you're getting the same revenue per message on a much cheaper SMS, that's great. However, a lot of the higher end brands, or the brands that have extremely high quality creative, if you have like imagery that looks really good, or if you have a very fun voice that can come through using GIFs and emojis and like longer formatting, those brands do see a lift utilizing MMS. So we see both there. As far as cadence, the program that we recommend for anyone starting out is, look, you need to build out a whole suite of automations, the things that are hitting your user base based on where that particular customer is in their journey. So abandoned carts, welcome series, post-purchase upsells, win-backs, shipping and delivery notifications, setting up your automation flows, and then continue to iterate those over time. But then on top of that, you also want a campaign schedule. And a campaign schedule should be a reflection of your biggest marketing calendar events, but it can't be every day. Maybe once or twice a week if you're sending out to everyone on the campaign side. Or what I would prefer to recommend is someone gets targeted. So if you're launching your new summer women's collection, right? You want to segment your audience and you want to send that text to them, but you probably don't want to send it to your whole list because there's a lot of men on your list as well. Sending targeted campaigns once to twice a week to keep a list warm, but without bombarding people, seems to be the sweet spot.
Amazing. So back-end Postscript, what data points do you have about a customer beyond their mobile phone details?
Yeah. So we hold every single e-commerce parameter that's stored on Shopify's side, plus some of our own. So any order, any customer attribute, and then also like all our data. So like it's also, you can filter based on like the last message someone clicked, that sort of thing.
So that means that you could build out audiences, based on behavioral, driven audiences.
Exactly.
You know who's abandoned, you know who's, and then it means you could create flows.
Exactly.
Okay. Then what can consumers handle in terms of frequency from a brand? When is it borderline spam?
Yeah. It's a great question. We think about this a lot. So consumers can handle things that are worthy of a text. And I know that that's ambiguous, but that's the best advice I have. If you are sending messages 3 times a week with nothing truly valuable for the user, that's going to wear them out. However, if you've built up a list exclusively because you're going to drop like the latest edition of your shoes this coming week, they want that text.
Yeah.
So using the larger framework of like what we all get text all the time, we all use text heavily. What's worthy of sending a text message? Is it the daily 5% discount? No. Is it because you launched a new product, because you're giving exclusive access, because it is a promotion? All of those things are much more like justified reasons. And that we see as more important than cadence or frequency when informing ROI and unsubscribe rates. It's really about like the quality of the message.
And yeah. Okay. Super interesting. Would you hit a customer from all angles, say with the shopping abandonment flow? Given the fact that you now have Facebook Messenger, apps, third-party apps that will do your cat abandonment. You definitely have email. You could pixel them and Facebook ad. Targeting with third-party tools such as AdRoll or Criteo. And then and then you have Postscript now with SMS. So what is best practice? Hit them all with from all angles, or focus on just SMS?
Yeah. So this comes up a lot, and we see 2 schools of thought. We see merchants who don't want any like cross-channel messaging. So there's some merchants out there who only want to send a customer a message through a single channel. Then we have merchants who want to reach that customer through every single channel. And what they tend to do is they're like, look, this is omni-channel marketing. Some people are engaged with their email inbox, and some people are engaged with their like Facebook Messenger, and some people check their text messages. I never check my Facebook Messenger, but I'm in my SMS all day. And so what we see as the best tactic for someone who wants to go omni-channel, which is what I would recommend for anyone who's looking to maximize revenue, is mixing up your cadences so that to the customer, it's still not overwhelming. So what I mean by that is, if you're going to send out an abandoned cart through all three channels we discussed, through email, through Facebook Messenger, and through SMS, don't have them all scheduled to go 1 hour after the person abandons their cart. That's going to be annoying to that end customer to be hit up from 3 channels at once. Instead, have the email go out an hour later and the SMS message go out 3 hours later and the Facebook message the next day. And if you're using quality tools for any of those, it doesn't matter. For example, with Postscript, it doesn't matter if someone buys earlier from an email abandoned cart. If that happens, our message will never send. So if you're using quality tools, there won't be crosstalk if you stagger the channels and use them all.
Yeah. I think, the timing is important. And that's what Omni is all about, making sure everything has a flow.
Yes.
The connection between all channels. And I suppose, given probabilities, you're going to be asking yourself as a marketing, leader, what channels are people likely going to open it more on? What channels have the highest open rate?
Yeah.
Sort of prioritize off the back of that, and timing also. Amazing. Next question, or probably my final question before we go into the lightning round, is lists. So your email list, so your messaging list. Are you seeing? So should marketers or brands, e-commerce brands, have 2 separate lists? Should they have, now that SMS is a channel to reckon with, how should people manage their customer database? Should they have a single customer view? Have their email lists? Should they have their SMS list? What best in class clients of yours? How are they approaching customer information?
It's still early, so we're seeing a lot of messiness right now in this area. I think you're right that marketers want it to be more coordinated across different channels and with different list management, but at least within the Shopify ecosystem, there really isn't a centralized CRM yet, and so no one is doing this extremely well. The other thing we see is that sometimes lists are fundamentally different. Like if someone is capturing mobile traffic to SMS and desktop traffic to email, like there won't be a ton of overlap in those lists. So I would say it's early days and there hasn't been a fix for it yet, or really a solution. What our approach is managing it through integrations. So for example, we integrate with Klaviyo, and anyone sending through Postscript can like sync lists between those two. So they can say, oh, hey, I want to send out an SMS campaign to everyone who didn't open my email campaign yesterday. And so like that's the closest that we're seeing so far, is using those types of tools.
Yeah, it probably spells an opportunity either in the app space or Shopify itself.
Yeah.
To create a single customer view platform.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what. I'm interested to see what Shopify does there. I think we're very, very, very focused on SMS, and like there's all kinds of deliverability complications with SMS because it's such an old technology. It's been around since the 90s. So we spend all of our time just going deeper and deeper and deeper and like building out custom solutions to ensure messages don't get filtered and that they actually get through, which is a big problem. So I don't know that we're going to be the ones to solve it. I hope that Shopify does something here, because that would be like the easiest thing for us to work off of.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned that, what's a delivery? What the challenges in deliverability with SMS?
Sure. So every country has different wireless carriers. The different mobile networks, and all of them have slightly different infrastructure, and all of them have different filtering in place. So a big issue with doing SMS is that no marketer knows about this sort of stuff, and why should they? So oftentimes their messages won't be getting through, and they won't realize it. And it's because their messages will be sent through like cheaper types of phone lines, through 9 or 10 digit phone numbers instead of the 5-digit short code corporate numbers. And if messages are sent out in bulk through those long phone numbers, they're getting filtered, they're getting blocked. Whereas getting like special carrier approved short codes that are unfiltered, those can be very beneficial because your messages get through. However, they're incredibly expensive. So oftentimes people end up on a shared short code with other merchants. And then like you're getting texted by 5 or 6 merchants on a single phone number, and that doesn't look good. So we spend a lot of our time building out like our unique IP, which is around unfiltered phone numbers that don't have crosstalk between brands. So no brands on Postscript share a phone number, but all their messages get through.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And what countries do you cover now?
We're available globally. About 95% of our business is US, Canada, and Australia. But anyone worldwide can use Postscript.
Okie dokie. I said the last question, my final question. This is my final question before we go into the evergreen lightning round, which is at the back end of Postscript and the flows. You have menus, which are pretty much or recipes, pre-made flows that marketers can sort of use as templates and just edit to quickly launch their flows and campaigns.
Yes, we are big on templates. We are big on giving the idea of what good creative looks like, and then having the brand edit it to just polish it in their voice. We're big on that.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much.
Of course.
It's been, I'll be proud to say I'm leaving this conversation more enlightened. So
nice.
Okay, so next round, just before I let you go, I'm going to ask you about 5 questions, and if you could use a single sentence to answer them, it'd be brilliant. It's for our lightning round.
Let's do it. Lightning round.
Right. How do you hire people?
Ideally from our network.
Awesome. Okay. What are your 3 indispensable tools used for managing Postscript?
Telegram. It is our internal company chat.
Interesting.
The stickers are extremely fun. Asana is how I personally manage my life. So I run my my personal for the company, but also my personal life, like my quarterly, my monthly, and my weeks are all run out of Asana. Telegram, Asana, and Intercom. We love chatting live with our customers. Intercom is always on.
Very message oriented. It feels
yes.
For the company. What's been your best mistake to date? I mean, a setback that's giving you the biggest feedback.
Sure. So when we started, we connected the live chat on our site to anytime someone chatted in, we would get a call on our phones, my co-founders and me. And we did this because we didn't want to miss any customer conversations. And it actually ended up being kind of awful because we grew really quickly and we were getting calls in the middle of the night and people were just chatting us in all the time. So that was hard, but it ended up being incredibly beneficial because for our first maybe 4 to 5 months, we were just talking to customers all the time and getting so much fast feedback and learning. And that was a great thing. It was worth waking up in the middle of the night.
That's actually a tip rather than
yeah.
Back, to be honest. Okay, what one piece of advice would you give retailers keen on growing their brand with SMS specifically?
Yes, I would say get compliance right in the start, and don't be afraid of another channel that needs creative, because everyone we see doing SMS is really just taking the creative that they're making for email and Instagram and putting it through the text channel. So it's not like a huge lift that needs a bunch of other work.
Okay, right. If you could choose a single book or resource that's made the highest impact on how you view building a business and growth, which would it be?
Okay. A single resource. Well, I'll just share one that's top of mind right now. Claire Hughes Johnson, who's the COO of Stripe.
Yeah.
There's a great YouTube video where she talks about how to run a meeting well. And it turns out all of us have been running meetings horribly, like around the world, and that I've never been in a really well-run meeting before. And she really breaks it down, and there's so many good like tips and insights in there. So I've been thinking a lot about that, just for how to efficiently run a team and how to do meetings well.
Perfect. I found it.
Nice.
Definitely do, and I'll share in the script. Okay. For those who want to, follow Postscript, follow you on social media, how's the best way to connect?
LinkedIn.
Awesome. Okay. We connected via LinkedIn.
Exactly. I think LinkedIn is very underrated and undervalued, and we see a ton of growth through it. I love talking about SMS on LinkedIn. Always open to connect.
Awesome. All right, guys, just search for Alex Bella on LinkedIn. You'll find out all Postscript.
Awesome.
Been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, Alex. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, cheers.